I'm here with Eugene Kim, or as I have known him for the past few years, Kim on Twitter.
Right.
Meeting for the first time. And we just finished a fabulous session on networks and online collaboration where we did an exercise. And then we had some presentation on some principles.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us a little bit about the exercise and what you thought were the most important reflections that came out from that?
Sure. So the exercise, we call it the dance floor in the balcony. It was actually an exercise I learned of indirectly through Michael Herman, and I believe it's originally Chris Corrigan's exercise. He's also an open space facilitator. But basically, you described it already to other people, like the high level?
Yes.
Okay. So, the outcomes of that were really interesting. I think, number one, there was a realization that going through the exercise first and actually playing, experiencing it, not having a goal up front, actually helped develop a culture of, I know what's going on, I know what to do. Now that we actually have a task, I'm comfortable trying to accomplish that task. So I think that was important. Other comments that were raised were about feedback. Right? When you hear what the goal was, to some of the people it sounded daunting or impossible, but when you actually started the exercise and when you could see it was possible to catalyze the network and to start moving the network in certain ways, then that motivated people to actually accomplish that goal. I think the third really critical point that emerged from that, and there are so many kind of subtleties which I think are always really interesting, was that simply having a shared goal is really catalytic. And that if you don't have that shared goal, then you just kind of have random, interesting social behavior that happens. But once everyone agrees on a goal, even if it conflicts with certain individual goals, it is still possible to shift the entire network and to make things happen.
That's great. You went through a number of principles for working in networks, and I thought the most interesting one was about simplicity and its importance. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, the model in terms of successful networks for me is biological. They're anthills. And ants are really stupid. Ants do two things really well. They basically carry a lot of weight, and they leave and they follow their trails, right? And the trails that they're following are basically telling other ants, I was here. There's no other information other than that. Well, when we think about humans and we think about catalyzing our own networks and we think, well, we're smarter than ants, we should be able to take care of some of those information. We should be able to do much greater things, especially if we do them in networks. We have to keep in mind some of those basic network principles and the fact that simplicity is important and simplicity scales. So some of the examples I threw out there were things like using Twitter. The fact that in 140 characters, you can't embed a lot of information, but the information content is actually not what's important. What's important is that you see that your network is alive and you have just enough clues as to what people are doing that if you want to start following those trails, if you want to start delving deeper into things, that can still happen. So sending those small signals, whether it's a picture or whether it's a 140-character tweet, that is immensely powerful, far more powerful than this emphasis on high information content knowledge share.
One of the most important takeaways for me was this whole reaffirmation that relationship building, especially using social media and within networks, and the importance of that, even more so than, dare I say, results.
Right.
Or utility.
Right. Yeah, we're way too caught up with that sort of thing, right? I mean, obviously, the objectives that we're seeking and the things that we want to accomplish are really important. But the reality is, if we really, are honest with ourselves and ask how these things happen, the reality is that these things happen because of relationships. Because we have relationship and trust that's built on things that have nothing to do, oftentimes, with, the task at hand, right? They have something to do with the task at hand, but those are not the only things. If you look at the examples of successful collaboration in the past, and especially successful collaboration where it seems like the circumstances are against you, maybe collaboration between competitors or other things, it's amazing to see how much good stuff happens just because people break bread together, or more often than not, they drink together, and they establish a relationship over time, and good things emerge out of those relationships.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.